Feeling lonely? 5 ways to build meaningful friendships after 70 without leaving home. You know, there's something about sitting in your favorite chair, a cup of tea in hand, and the quiet hum of the house around you that can make the world feel both cozy and just a little too still. Have you ever found yourself staring at old photo albums, smiling at memories of friends gathered around a picnic table or laughing over a game of cards, and suddenly thought, I miss this? Maybe the phone doesn't ring as often as it used to, or the days feel longer without someone to share a story or a joke. If that sounds familiar, let me tell you, you're not alone. But here's the good news. Building meaningful friendships after 70 isn't just possible. It can be joyful, even without stepping out your front door. Life changes, doesn't it? The kids have their own busy lives. Old friends might be miles away. And sometimes it feels like the world's moved faster than we'd like. But that doesn't mean we have to slow down when it comes to connection. In fact, some of the richest friendships can blossom right from your living room, kitchen table, or even your garden. Over the next little while, we're going to talk about 5 simple, heartfelt ways to invite new people into your life or rekindle old bonds without ever needing to put on your going-out shoes. And let's start with something I think you'll find both comforting and surprising. The first step, reaching back to move forward. Remember Sarah from your book club in the 90s? Or Joe, your former co-worker, who always knew how to crack a joke during stressful meetings? Time and distance might have pulled you apart, but here's the thing. Technology today makes it easier than ever to bridge those gaps. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Oh, technology. That's for the grandkids. But hear me out. You don't need to master every app or gadget. A simple video call, an email, or even a handwritten letter, yes, those still exist, can reopen doors you thought were closed. Take Margaret, for example. She'd lost touch with her college roommate, Helen, after Helen moved to Florida. One rainy afternoon, Margaret's granddaughter showed her how to use Zoom. Within a week, she and Helen were chatting every Sunday, sharing recipes and reminiscing about their dorm days. It's like no time passed at all, Margaret told me. And now we've even started a virtual Stitch and Chat group with a few other friends. The key here isn't about being tech-savvy. It's about being curious. Start small. Ask a family member to help you set up a Facebook account to search for old friends, or dig out the address book gathering dust in your drawer. Send a note. I was thinking about you today. How's life treating you? You'd be amazed how many people are longing for that same connection. The second step, finding your tribe without leaving the couch. Now, maybe you're thinking, but what if I want to meet new people? Folks who share my hobbies or interests. Well, that's where the magic of online communities comes in. And no, I'm not talking about chaotic social media feeds or comment sections full of strangers arguing. There are countless quiet corners of the internet designed just for people like you. Spaces where kindness and shared passions take center stage. Let me tell you about George. After his wife passed, George felt adrift. He'd always loved gardening, but tending his roses alone didn't fill the quiet like it used to. His daughter mentioned an online forum for gardeners over 60. Skeptical but willing to try, George joined. Soon, he was swapping tips with a woman in New Zealand growing orchids in her sunroom and a man in Texas experimenting with drought-resistant roses. We even started a monthly virtual garden tour, George said. We show off our blooms over video calls. It's like traveling the world without the jet lag. You don't have to love gardening, of course. Whether it's cooking, bird watching, classic films, or even model trains, there's a group out there waiting for you. Websites like Senior Chatters or Stitch.net cater specifically to older adults looking for friendship. Libraries and community centers often host virtual clubs too. Call and ask. The goal isn't to overwhelm yourself, but to dip a toe into conversations that light you up. And here's the beautiful part. Every friendship starts with a single hello. Whether it's typing a comment on a forum, joining a Zoom book club, or even listening to a podcast and writing a heartfelt email to the host, these small steps add up. You're not just filling your calendar. You're filling your life with voices, stories, and people who remind you how much you matter. So take a breath. Maybe grab a notebook and jot down one old friend you'd like to reconnect with or a hobby you'd love to share with others. Tomorrow, we'll keep building on this, because the next steps are all about turning those initial hellos into lasting, meaningful conversations. Until then, why not put the kettle on and let yourself smile? The world's still full of wonderful people, and plenty of them are waiting to meet you. Isn't it something how a single conversation can reignite a spark you didn't even realize had dimmed? Maybe you've already tried reaching out to an old friend or joined an online group, and suddenly, your week has a little more color. But let's be honest, starting a friendship, whether it's new or renewed, can feel a bit like tending a seedling. It needs care, attention, and the right conditions to grow. So today, let's talk about how to nurture those connections into something deeper, and how to discover unexpected opportunities for friendship right under your nose. The third step: share what you love, and let others love it too. You know that feeling when you're doing something you adore, painting, baking, listening to old jazz records, and you think, I wish I had someone to share this with. Well, here's the secret. Sharing your passions isn't just a way to connect with others, it's a way to let them see you. And when someone connects with what you love, it creates a bond that goes far beyond small talk. Take Arthur, for instance. He'd been a history buff his whole life, but after retiring, his lectures were limited to patient nods from his cat, Mr. Whiskers. Then his niece convinced him to host a casual Zoom history hour for her neighborhood seniors. Arthur was nervous. Who'd want to listen to an old man ramble about the Civil War? But he gave it a try. The first week, 3 people showed up. By the third week, he had a dozen regulars, including a woman in Scotland who'd grown up near the battlefield of Culloden. We've become pen pals, Arthur said. She sends me photos of the Highlands, and I send her stories about Gettysburg. Turns out, Mr. Whiskers isn't my only audience after all. You don't have to host a formal class, of course. It could be as simple as starting a weekly coffee and crossword video call with a few acquaintances, or inviting a small group to watch a classic movie together while you chat about it over the phone. The point is to create a space where your joy becomes a bridge to others. And here's the best part. When you share something you love, you'll attract people who appreciate you, not just your hobby. The fourth step: give back and find friendship in the process. Now, I want to ask you something. When was the last time someone thanked you for your time, your wisdom, or your kindness? If it's been a while, let me remind you, you have decades of experience, stories, and heart to offer the world. And volunteering, even from home, isn't just a way to help others, it's a way to remind yourself how needed you are. Consider Rose. After her husband passed, she spent months feeling like she'd lost her purpose. I'd been a nurse for 40 years, she told me. Suddenly, I wasn't needed anymore. Then she discovered an organization that pairs retired medical professionals with young nurses for virtual mentorship. Now, Rose spends Tuesday afternoons video chatting with Maria, a 28-year-old working the night shift at a busy hospital. She asks me questions, I tell her stories from the old days, and we laugh about how much, and how little, has changed, Rose said. Turns out, I'm not just helping her. She's helping me remember who I am. You don't need a professional background to make a difference, though. Could you knit hats for preemies and mail them to a local hospital? Read bedtime stories to grandchildren, or even a neighbor's kids, over FaceTime? Or write encouraging letters to newcomers at your church or community center? Every act of generosity plants a seed. And often, those seeds grow into friendships with people who value your heart as much as your help. You see, loneliness thrives in silence, but it melts in the presence of purpose. Whether you're sharing a skill or offering kindness, you're telling the world, I'm here, and I have something to give. And when you do that, people notice. They lean in. They want to know the person behind the passion. So tonight, as you're settling into your favorite chair, ask yourself, what's one thing I love doing that could become a shared moment? Or, how could I use my time to make someone's day a little brighter? You don't need a grand plan. Just an open heart and the courage to say, let's try this together. And guess what? There's still one more step to explore, a simple, everyday habit that can turn casual chats into lifelong confidants. But for now, why not put on that album you've always loved, or dig out those knitting needles? Who knows, someone wonderful might just ask to join you. There's a saying I've always loved. Friendship isn't about how often you meet, but how deeply you connect. Maybe you've felt it before. A conversation that starts with the weather and somehow winds its way to memories of your first job, your biggest regret, or the song that always makes you cry. Those moments don't happen by accident. They happen when we let down our guard just a little and say, "Here's who I am." So today, let's talk about the final step, the one that transforms pleasant chats into friendships that feel like home. The fifth step, the art of being comfortably you. Let me tell you about Evelyn. She'd been part of an online poetry group for months, sharing haikus and sonnets with strangers turned acquaintances. The group was friendly, but conversations never went deeper than comments like, "Lovely imagery," or "Nice rhyme scheme." Then one day, Evelyn posted a poem about losing her husband. It was raw, honest, and achingly vulnerable. "I almost deleted it," she admitted. "I thought, no one wants to hear about grief." But the next morning, her inbox was full. One woman shared her own story of widowhood. Another sent a poem she'd written after her divorce. Suddenly, Evelyn said, "We weren't just poets, we were people." That's the magic of vulnerability. It's not about oversharing or unloading burdens. It's about letting someone see a real piece of you, the quirks, the quiet joys, even the scars. And here's the thing. When you take that first small risk, you give others permission to do the same. Think about the friendships that mean the most to you. Chances are, they're the ones where you can admit you're lonely, laugh at your own forgetfulness, or confess that you still miss your mother's apple pie. Those layers of honesty are the glue that holds friendships together. But how do you start? Try this. Next time you're chatting with someone new, share a story with a feeling attached. Instead of saying, "I love gardening," try, "Gardening saved me after I retired. It gave me something to look forward to when the house felt too empty." That tiny shift opens a door. It says, "I trust you with this part of me." The power of everyday rituals. Now, let's talk about something we all crave but rarely name, consistency. It's the Sunday phone call with your sister, the neighbor who waves from their porch every morning, the friend who always texts a joke on Fridays. These small, repeated gestures build a rhythm of connection, a reassurance that someone's there, even when life gets quiet. Take Harold and Lloyd, two widowers who met through an online chess club. At first, they play a game or two a week, chatting about pawns and knights. Then Harold mentioned he'd started feeding the crows in his backyard, a silly habit he'd picked up to fill the silence. Lloyd laughed and confessed he'd been naming the squirrels that visited his balcony. Soon, their chess matches became a daily ritual. They talk about birds, squirrels, and eventually, the loneliness of eating dinner alone. "Now we eat together over Zoom once a week," Harold said. "Even if we're just sipping soup in silence, it feels normal." You don't need grand plans to create this kind of rhythm. A 5-minute check-in call every Tuesday, a shared photo of your morning coffee, even a postcard sent once a month. These tiny habits weave a safety net, a reminder that you're both here, showing up day after day. And here's the truth. Friendship after 70 isn't about numbers, it's about depth. You don't need a crowd. You need a few hearts that feel like yours. So, if you've been hesitating to send that message, share that story, or suggest a weekly chat, take a deep breath and try. The right people won't shy away from your authenticity. They'll lean in and say, "Me too." Tomorrow, we'll wrap this up with a few final thoughts, gentle reminders to carry with you as you step into this new chapter of connection. But for now, why not pick up the phone, open that notebook, or type out a message to someone who's been on your mind? After all, the best friendships often begin with 3 simple words. "I was thinking." You know, there's a moment in every garden when the first bud opens, a quiet, stubborn miracle that says, "Look what can grow from a little care and patience." Building friendships later in life is a lot like that. It's not about grand gestures or racing to fill every silence. It's about showing up, again and again, with the kind of tenderness we often save for seedlings or for ourselves. If there's one thing I want you to take away from all this, it's that connection isn't something you've lost. It's something you deserve, something that's waiting for you in the corners of your everyday life. Let's tie it all together with a few gentle reminders to carry forward. The heart of the matter. We've talked about 5 ways to nurture friendship without leaving home, reconnecting with old friends, joining online communities, sharing your passions, giving back through acts of kindness, and embracing vulnerability and consistency. But let's be clear, this isn't a checklist. It's a mindset, a way of saying, I'm here, and I'm open to the world. Think back to George, tending his roses while chatting with gardeners across the globe. Or Evelyn, whose raw poem turned strangers into confidants. These aren't extraordinary people. They're folks just like you, who decided to plant one small seed of courage and see what grew. A note for the hesitant heart. Maybe you're thinking, but what if I'm not ready? What if I reach out and no one reaches back? Let me tell you about my friend Clara. At 78, she'd never sent an email, let alone joined an online group. But one rainy afternoon, she mustered the courage to call an old friend she hadn't spoken to in 20 years. The phone rang and rang. I almost hung up, she said. Then a voice, Clara, is that really you? Turns out, her friend had been sitting by the phone, too, wondering if anyone would call. Not every effort will land perfectly, of course. Some calls will go unanswered. Some messages might fade into the digital ether. But here's the truth. Every hello you send is a victory. It's proof that you're still here, still hoping, still alive in the best sense of the word. Your invitation. So, as we wrap up, I'll leave you with this tonight. As the sun sets and the house settles into its evening hum, ask yourself one question. What's one small step I can take tomorrow to feel a little less alone? Maybe it's texting a photo of your garden to that kind woman from the online group. Maybe it's volunteering to proofread a neighbor's grandkid's school essay. Or maybe it's simply writing a note to yourself. I'm worth knowing. And if you're feeling brave, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Tell me about a friendship that changed your life, a hobby you'd love to share, or even a memory that makes you smile. Let's turn this space into one of those cozy kitchen tables where stories and laughter flow freely. Before you go, if this conversation resonated with you, do me a favor, tap that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. It's a simple way to keep these ideas alive and remind others that they're not alone on this journey. And remember, age isn't a countdown. It's a permission slip to be soft, to be bold, to reinvent yourself, and to love deeply, even when life feels quiet. The world needs your stories, your laughter, and your perfectly imperfect self. So here's to you, my friend. Here's to cradling hope like a cup of tea, to friendships that bloom in unexpected places, and to the courage it takes to say, let's try this together. Until next time, keep your heart open. The best chapters are still being written.